Okay, so explain to me again why I'm here. To make sure nobody interrupts this review whatsoever. Says the guy who should have had this out yesterday. Dude, it was Halloween and it was kind of mid nonetheless. Anyway, hey everybody, this is Richard Care Reviews in sadly figure form because, yeah, check my Instagram for the most obvious me trying my best to do not subtle low energy cosplay of Kotaro Maui for I guess this new version of Black in this case Kamen Black Sun. Yeah, before we get to the obvious review itself, I want to do some quick news of some Toku I've clearly forgot to mention last time I did any oral Toku news. Yes, I am very much aware of the new cast for the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers. Mighty Morphin wise, the whole cast looks great. Everybody looks good. Note that there's no JDF and Austin St. John, which is pretty good. I mean, it's been a while since everybody had to have a hand in this crossover business. Especially, I'm the more surprised that Johnny Young Bosch is coming back as Adam, and not only that, I think a proto SPD Ranger, if anything, or starting I guess a proto version of Space Patrol Delta. I think No Pick Spandex mentioned it a lot in their post that I think the badge is SPA for Space Patrol Alpha, so there was probably an Alpha division of anything else. Everybody else looks great, especially the new character who's I think Ming. I think the daughter of Three Trings. Trini is gonna be really cool. More on that probably in 2023 when the actual 30th anniversary kicks off. So can't wait to see that. Also, since I'm talking about Kamen Black Sun, and if anyone doesn't want any huge spoilers, I highly recommend going to Mark Ross's new spoiler-free review. It does basically what I was trying to do in the shorts yesterday, so go to that as well. And with that, all the plugs out of the way, what did I think of Kamen Rider Black Sun? Well, it was rough. It's not Amazon's level crazy with the violence as much as it does look. Trust me, there is some moments that is, if you're squeamish in some capacity, it is like that, but it also is, ironically, a political thriller, J-drama as a Toku. Yeah, Crunchyroll said it best in their post, and this is probably the last time I mentioned it down below, but it is a political intrigue-driven kind of stuff. Most of the timeline, if for those who remember the original Kamen Black series, is very different, which is more or less, I guess, the modern equivalent of having yet another, I guess, Kamen Shin prologue kind of situation, which is basically, let's just reinvent, like, the lore of this particular writer and see where we can go from there. And yeah, I do mean political thriller because it is definitely charged in more of a activist kind of way. Golem is basically a political party that may or may not be slowly getting corrupt as time went on into the 50 years. And in Black Sun and Shadow Moon's case, it still retains a lot from the show itself. I think the first episode is showing them getting turned into kaijins than riders, so again, that's more or less intact. Everything about, like, the Golem Empire is still a hierarchy, kind of a priest and priestess kind of territory, semi-culpa now with political interest instead of world-dominating interest, which is, again, scaled down, but still a rider plot, if anything else. And for the character herself, we'll get to the Creation King in a sec, but for Aoi, yeah, she's basically, I guess the closest thing to the Toku equivalent, or I guess J-drama equivalent of a Lone Wolf of Cub situation, a la Mandalorian, those stories nowadays. And unironically, she is very motivated to basically do what she can in little of a social media light that she has. That is basically the bulk of her subplots, and a lot of the kaijin are represented pretty good. Let me see if I have one. Yeah, and keeping up with the political interest, yeah, this counter-protest kind of guy is basically an asshole. And it's the closest thing, I guess, to comedy you're gonna get for a while. Them just, like, stereotypically being like, oh, we don't like it because reasons kind of thing. So, yeah, it's pretty much like that. I don't know what kind of, like, level of, oh, hang on a sec. What kind of level of Japanese politics is starting to speak of nowadays versus here in the West. Obviously, it could be like the last couple of years of protest, activism, you name it. It was basically in that kind of spirit. As for the flashbacks, which there will be a lot, it's actually really interesting. And for those who know in the Toku community, there was a few memes circulating around, or good photoshops of what would happen if, like, any, like, Heisei era writer was in, like, the 70s. You get basically the same thing in Black's case. It's weird to basically put two and two together, and in Kotaro and Shadow Moon's case, Nobuhiko, if I got his name right, character-wise, Yeah, they lived a lot longer than they did in the actual show itself. In the actual show itself, they were the actual, normal, like, teens to 20s kind of, like, territory of their friendship going into their, later on, their rivalry. Yeah, it's a lot longer because, I guess they took a subplot from, Amazon's and said, oh, we have this substance to help you, help out with your powers and stuff like that. One thing, it's basically, carbon copied of, like, human DNA and stuff like that. It was very not exposition heavy, but very rushed to explain why they need that immediately. They called it heaven throughout the whole show. And speaking of the episode listings and titles of this, it's not a movie for those who are wondering. It is actually a 10-episode miniseries. It's one and done. You can definitely tell they do not want to do another one, which would be hard to see how they're going to do RX after this. I'm going to be honest, but it would be interesting. I'm not leaving that door out there in case anyone's asking. Um so yeah, another thing I liked about both the titular, I guess, writers in this case, because yeah, Shadow Moon for a long while throughout most of the show before the final episodes was basically with the protest, going out of his way to help Kaijins basically exist before the creation. Temple, sorry, I forgot the Century Kings basically told him, yeah, or sorry, Golem. It was a lot of hands here. Long story short, yeah, there are kaijin forms I don't have time to show off here if I have it, but more or less it's kind of like what you're seeing here with the Creation King, except it's more bulkier, it's more flexible, and you can tell in Black Sun's case, he had a bit of a limp in his debut episodes because turns out 50 years ago, the Creation King got his leg. Well, you know that by the end of the show, but like how he did it, I won't spoil. It's very hard. It's very visceral as far as his limp goes. Sorry, what led to his leg getting limped. Yeah, more or less as far as the rest of the show goes. There is one last thing I want to talk about spoilers right before I do my final thoughts. Is that they actually did Battle Hopper justice. Like, more or less, this is what he looks like in the show, and I think the same thing with Shadow Moon's bike. They're definitely in themed with what their rider forms are, and it's very low. I don't know the exact name of the bike. I'm not a bike guy. As a person who watches a lot of Kamen Rider, I know, shocking, I don't know my bikes offhand, but let me know in the description what type of, I guess, brand, sorry, what type of manufacturer they used, because it looks really good. Battle Hopper itself doesn't talk or whatever. It's again a J drama as a Toku series that's basically like that. And yeah, another thing I liked marketing wise was both the figure war and the CSM driver. I think it came out same. Yeah, it says it here. Came out same day as the actual show itself. And if I got time to find, oh, sorry. I have, what is this, 2 weeks in a row that I have to, like, jumble around. Alright, here we go. Sorry for the jumble. Anyway, so, Dro Henshin. Yeah, it's the closest I'm going to the sound effect, the mist. Yeah, comparing my, SH figure, regular Showa era, Black versus the new one, from Black Sun, it is pretty cool, and this is the final, I guess, creation form, because throughout most of the show, the belt itself is very spiraled and open, but if you saw here in this photo and the marketing material, the circle is very compressed back in, mainly because that's how he's doing his traditional. They're still doing the traditional Kamen Rider Black Henshu, which is really cool, like that. My apologies to all the actors here. I don't have time to talk about their names and stuff like that. I do love the actor who played Black Sun in this case. I mentioned him in my Drive My Car review, so go to the cards there to see me, I guess, sadly botch his name. Again, my apologies. Please keep an eye on him. He's doing a great job with this project, and I think Shin Ultraman that came out earlier this year. I think it was in the Science Patrol helping out the Ultra himself in that movie. So that's pretty cool there as well. So with that being said, off screen Showa Henshin, yeah, they do a little bit of that, kind of like in Black Sun as well, and it's mostly for a budgetary reason. And for all 10 episodes, you get like 1 or 2 fights total. But when they do the fights, you can hear every punch, every kick, every visceral crack of like Amazon's level kind of like ripping and tearing that you noticed there too. Also, again, I wish I had time to get their kaijin forms. It's the closest thing to growing forms they're going to have throughout the entire show, but the reason why I want to get that is because I think if I get back to the promotionals here for the figure war, my apologies again, the sword there that you've been seeing in the trailers is actually their praying mantis backpack legs that they tuck when they transform in the early half of the show. Both him and Shadow Moon just rip that off to be their swords, and it's insane. Like, the pain is like very visceral. Again, you could hear that going into it. The plot itself, like I said, is very politically charged, and you could definitely tell that. However, it does, oh, my apologies, it does preserve their rivalry by the end of the show. They have conflicting emotions. They go into protesting for kaijin rights for the right reasons, and then it just turns into basically a Fight Club level, like, Project Mayhem territory, especially for Aoi at the end. I don't want to spoil much about her, but what I can say is, yeah, she turns into a kaijin, but she does a lot more than that. Like, I think, if I'm right, this will be the first time in, I guess, remake writer history that she is a female writer, let alone a successor to Black himself, which is actually pretty cool. So again, that's all in the final episode. Another thing with the final episode, they actually, with Battle Hopper and everything, they recreated the original show's opening, which I'm pretty sure everyone in the Toku community have already mentioned in the trailer, in all their channels. So I'm gonna leave a card to whoever side by side did. It's really cool. A lot of the kaijin that Black Sun and Aoi meets throughout the show are people that were characters in the original show as well. I think most of the few monsters I think Black spared to help out in the final arc leading up to his final showdown with Shadow Moon. So if I had to guess and estimate what they were adapting to be this new version of the show, I'm gonna take a wild guess and say they just took the Shadow Moon's finale arc and just remade it from there, lore-wise. Ultimately, if you're a Toku fan, should you sit through Kamen Rider Black Sun? Honestly, yes. Regardless how you feel about the politics-driven, or if the fact that this is a political thriller instead of a hard-nosed, Amazons-level action with violence Kamen Rider series, I still say watch it here in the States, mainly because, again, we need exposure for this to stay, well, legal here, and readily available, obviously, on Amazon Prime. Like I said when I did my non-spoilers review, I did watch this day of, so sorry if it took all weekend to get to this. Ultimately, if you're not a fan of that kind of, like, style for Toku, I understand, I clearly get it, but at the same time, it's Kamen Rider Black, and this is a really damn good remake, and that's kind of rare to say, let alone in this genre of this entertainment medium that we call tokusatsu. So with that all being said, what did you think of Kamen Rider Black Sun? Did you sit through all 10 episodes, or did you sit through my review or Mark Ross's review? Please let me know in the comments down below. And as always, I'm Richard Reviews, and wow, it has been a while since I did a traditional review. No, nothing. Like, November looks good. You do know you gotta review, like, Black Panther Wakanda Forever next week, right? And go to Retro's Confused Face there for the previous video, which was, I'm assuming, his Black Adam review. Go to Grifter here explaining how the hell does he know Marvel lore and still being an indie character, to the shorts plays when I did my non-spoilers review of Kamen Rider Black Sun. Oh, come on, I have an intricate lore. Go back to him and his rider belts to check out his channel, notification bell down below. And seriously, I have a really interesting lore. Dude, are you just trying to be a Shadow Moon here? No? Is that cool? I mean, kinda. I mean, the show's, ultimately, the show's awesome, and congratulations to the cast and crew. Like I said, this feels like a mini-series. There's no way Toei and Amazon are totally gonna make a remake of RX next, right? Right?